Okay, it's exactly 5 minutes after 8 p.m. Ugandan time. My name is Joseph Omagor. I'm the host of the Northern Baraza, and I am a practicing journalist working with the Next Media Group as the bureau chief of Acholi. I just want to confirm with you that my sound is okay.
Yes, it's fine.
You're loud and clear.
Thank you. So, we've been running the Northern Baraza to talk about the issues that affect the people in Northern Uganda. And many of us have been following in the media what's happening at The Hague. There was a bounty that was put on Joseph Kony, the leader of the Lord's Resistance Army. And up to date, we've not got any clear information whether he has been arrested. However, the International Criminal Court, that's the ICC, this year started a pre-trial. And it's after we learned about this that I contacted Counsel Peter Haynes. I don't know whether that's the correct spelling, so that he could clearly tell us what is happening. What does pre-trial mean? What does it mean for the ICC to commence this trial? Who is going to be affected? He's going to give us a 10-minute debrief on that, and then we'll be able to ask questions. This X space is supposed to be happening concurrently with a Zoom interview, but our Zoom connection seems to be failing. It shows me somebody logged in earlier on, but we shall continue with the X space first. So at this point, and having had the background to why we have today's X space, I would like to welcome Counsel Peter Haynes to introduce himself, and then also to tell us where are we at in the Joseph Kony trial. Please, the mic is yours. You're most welcome.
Well, good evening, everybody. And firstly, can I say what an honour and a privilege it is to speak to you all here this evening. It's a little bit earlier here in the United Kingdom, but it's still dark. The difference is it's also very cold and wet. So I'm very envious of those of you who are sitting in northern Uganda, which I visited twice in the last month, and with which I've been very impressed, not least because of the lovely weather you have there, amongst other things. Well, my name's Peter Haynes, and yes, Omega, you pronounced it perfectly. And I'm a British barrister, lawyer. I'm technically King's Counsel, but that doesn't mean I represent His Majesty. It just means I've been bestowed with that particular honour. And for the last 20 years, I've practiced pretty much exclusively in international criminal law, including at the International Criminal Court, where amongst other cases I represented the Congolese Vice President Jean-Pierre Bemba. And earlier this year, I was assigned by the court to represent the interests of Joseph Kony in his absence, which is a pretty unusual experience for me, because normally I would expect to represent somebody who could tell me something about the case, whether they were there, whether they were innocent, whether they were guilty. But in this case, I have no client. And the reason that came about is because 17 years after an arrest warrant was first issued for Joseph Kony, the prosecution at the ICC decided last year to proceed against him in his absence. And that is very much a departure. It's a new area for the ICC. It's never been done before in relation to any accused there, whether they have failed to turn up or run away or whatever. They've just never done that before. And so this is very much an experiment, and an experiment which will have consequences for other accused in the future. And it may well be that that is part of the reason it has been done. And in the last year, there have been really 3 decisions of the pre-trial chamber at the ICC. The first in November of 2023, where the pre-trial chamber decided that Joseph Kony was a person who could not be found. And the second in March of 2024, when they decided he had received or sufficient effort had been made to notify him of the fact of the proceedings. And on that occasion, they set a date for the hearings of the confirmation of charges of October the 15th. But what they also did at that point in time was set in train a process for the appointment of counsel to represent his interests. That took rather longer than was anticipated because various parties got involved suggesting how this should be done, and it took until July until I was appointed, I think resulting from a competition of about 80 or 90 other lawyers who were assessed anonymously. Now, when I was appointed, the first thing I did was assemble a team of lawyers who looked at the decisions that had been taken up till then. And we raised a series of legal observations about the propriety and legality of proceeding against somebody who was not there. And basically, there were 3 areas of that. Firstly, we said the law under the ICC statute just doesn't permit it. Secondly, we said the efforts to locate and notify Joseph Kony were inadequate. Indeed, it wasn't certain that he was still alive. And thirdly, we questioned the justification for doing this at this point in time, which was substantially on the basis that it was what the victims wanted. And we questioned whether, in fact, the victims did in fact want this to happen. But in October, a month or so ago, the pre-trial chamber said the case could proceed. We have sought leave to appeal that decision, and we haven't received a decision as to whether there will be leave to appeal granted. So in many ways, the case is still hanging in midair. It's not clear whether the appeals chamber are going to hear an appeal against the decision to proceed against Kony in his absence or not. And probably we won't know that until after the new year. Now, I want to say something about in absentia proceedings. And it's obvious that there is a lot of misapprehension about this, even from the title of this debate tonight. It's called the Joseph Kony trial, all you need to know. What is currently proposed will not be a trial. You need to understand that. If this carries on to a hearing, there will be no findings of guilt against Joseph Kony. There will be no findings that he's not guilty of anything. There will be no reparations awarded to any victims. Neither of those things are going to happen. All that will happen, if the case proceeds, is that a court, or as they call them at the ICC, a chamber, will say whether or not there is sufficient evidence to charge him and put him on trial. It's called a confirmation of charges hearing. It's not a trial. If you get past that stage, then a trial could take place. But the opportunity to try somebody, to actually place somebody on trial who is absent, who is not there at the ICC, is very, very limited. Will there subsequently be a trial in Joseph Kony's absence of Joseph Kony? I don't know. The prosecution hasn't yet said whether it would seek to do that. Certainly, it would be a massive legal departure if they did, and there would be a whole series of further legal arguments as to whether that was in fact proper or legal. So, as I've already said, what is happening at the moment is something of an experiment with consequences for other accused that the ICC would like to have in The Hague, for example, Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Putin. Well, this is a novel experience for defence lawyers too. We have no client, nobody to tell us, well, I wasn't there, I didn't do that, or you need to go and speak to these people, they can tell you what really happened. So for present purposes, what we are concentrating on is two things. Firstly, whether this is actually legal, and secondly, even if it is legal, whether it's actually a good idea. And in seeking to answer those questions, we've consulted really with two substantial bodies of people. Firstly, we have met with, and they have been most helpful and welcoming, Ugandan government officials at the highest level, including the president, and Ugandan judicial representatives at the highest level. And secondly, we've met with community leaders and the leaders of victims' organisations in the north of Uganda. And I think what we've learned has been something of a surprise. From the Ugandan government officials, it seems plain that it is Ugandan government policy that if Joseph Kony were arrested in Uganda, or transferred to Uganda, he would be tried there and not at the ICC. And that, of course, makes a lot of sense because the Lord's Resistance Army was in operation for a long time before the ICC's jurisdiction comes into play. And they're also likely to be charged with offences of terrorism, which don't fall under the ICC's statute. The attitude of the Ugandan government, if he's transferred to the ICC, is, well, so be it. If he's arrested, for example, in Sudan or the Central African Republic, and they transfer him to The Hague, then they're content that the referral they made 20 years ago should take effect, and he should be tried in The Hague. The third thing that was apparent from our meetings was that whilst the current process is something about which the Ugandan government is comfortable, they would be substantially less comfortable with the idea that the ICC should seek to hold a trial of Joseph Kony in his absence. It's obviously illegal under Ugandan law, and they would be uncomfortable with the idea that findings of guilt should be made against somebody who isn't there to defend himself. But perhaps the last thing that has become apparent from really everybody we've spoken to is that there is real concern about whether what is proposed, this idea of holding a confirmation of charges hearing against Joseph Kony, who isn't there, possibly even holding it in Gulu or Lira in northern Uganda, would at best be of no consequence, and of worse might actually be harmful. And harmful because it would reopen old wounds about the Civil War. It would leave a lot of victims who are not covered by the very limited charges that fall under the ICC's jurisdiction. It would leave them feeling aggrieved that only those who were registered victims at the ICC were likely to receive reparations, and that it would, in many ways, be damaging to attempts to establish an atmosphere of reconciliation and cohesion amongst the population of northern Uganda. And we've heard that from many of the community leaders we've spoken to and many of the victims' representatives we've spoken to. And that is something which we are aware that the government also is wary of. So that's where we are. We are waiting to see whether the case will go forward towards a confirmation of charges hearing. Whether it goes any further than that, one simply doesn't know at this stage. I think I might have slightly overdone my 10 minutes there, but I hope you're all a little wiser now, and I'm open to your questions should you wish to ask them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. At this time, I will give the mic to Council Stella Kijange. We are going to have a Q&A. You ask questions. Then Honorable Oriam Kising as well will have his turn. But first, let's start with Council, who is also the Minister of Gender at the Kekwara Choli.
Thank you very much, Council Peter Haynes, Joseph, Oriam Kissing, and everyone listening. I had the liberty to meet the ICC prosecution team on the 19th of November 2024. I also had the liberty to meet the ICC defense team on the 5th of December 2024. And having heard from both sides, there's some issues that I would want to put to your attention. From the ICC prosecution team, they say that they cannot guarantee trial of Joseph Kony in absentia because it's against the Rome Statute. And that what they are doing now is a hearing of confirmation of charges against Joseph Kony. They also stated that they believe the process is to make sure that the victims own it, in that everyone should be part and parcel of the proceedings if it is to be there. Like Council Peter Haynes stated before, this is not a trial yet. It is, if granted, it's going to be a confirmation, a hearing of confirmation of charges of Joseph Kony. Then from defense team, their issue was whether the hearing of confirmation of charges is legal or is within the Rome Statute. And if it's legal, should they exercise it? And if they are to exercise it, do we, the Acholi people, embrace it? Does it contradict or conflict with our traditional or justice system of Acholi? Those are the issues both parties put across. That is the defense team and prosecution. So as Stella Kijae, who is the Minister of Gender, Culture, and Youth at K. Kwara Choli, who is also a lawyer, I have some questions that I'd want to bring forward to you, Council Peter Haynes. That even if the proceedings were permitted, we're not sure whether it's going to be permitted or not. That was what was put across. Do the people of Acholi want it? Have you done wider consultation and everyone has embraced it? You know, we are familiar with the justice system that you've had, where the accused person is this side, prosecution is here, the judicial officer is here. You're seeing the accused person. But here, we are prosecuting someone we have not seen, and majority believe that maybe he will not be seen again. So what are you doing? Majority believe that this is just a sham. It's a song. It's what the Bazungu or the white man may want to prosecute, but maybe justice is not will not be seen to be done. And another question I would pose is, do you think the people of Acholi would wish the proceeding to go ahead without Kony, or should we give more time for him to be brought back home? What about the victims? Are they willing to be part and parcel of this trial? Have we prepared them psychologically? Or we are just ambushing them and we're saying, no, this is what ICC states, this is what Rome Statute states, and we are doing A, B, C, and D. Are we psychologically ready, or are the victims ready psychologically? Will the people be disappointed? Will it bring reconciliation between the victims and the perpetrators of this war? If it's contrary, if we try to do the traditional justice principles here to apply, will it conflict with ICC? And if it does, which one would ICC prefer? These are the questions I'd like to put across to you, Peter Haynes, Council Peter Haynes, before I can give my role, or the role of Kekwara Choli in this confirmation of hearing of charges against Joseph Kony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Council Stella Kijange. And I think maybe it would be fair we have Honorable Oriam Kisinga as well ask his questions and speak up, introduce himself, and then we can hand back the mic to Council Peter Haynes.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, my brother Joseph, and thank you, Stella, Council Stella, and then Council Peter. My name is Kisinja Oriem, and I have been a humanitarian worker for a very long time. And I worked for Gulu Support the Children organization that happened to be receiving children who were abducted, sometimes tortured, and were involved in a number of serious atrocities. And they came to our reception center, which was in Gulu. And myself and Shante Francis published a researched article, which we published in 2000, I think 2008. It's called When the Victim Speaks. During that time, ICC was visiting our reception center most of the time to find out so much information about Kwoyelo and the rest of the guys, Dominic Ongwen, and also Joseph Kony. They were trying as much as possible to get information from victims who were at the reception center. And sometimes we would take them to people that we have already reunited in the community, but they needed to get information from them, including girls who were abducted and then they became wives to the commanders and all that. So sometimes when we have this kind of proposed like trials and he gave a name about that, I would wonder. He told me there is victims association. I don't know whether he knows that mostly the elite people or the informed people form such groups, and the biggest victims, for example, like maybe in Gere, where people were cooked in the pot, in Lira Paluo, Adilang, wherever, many other places, I don't know whether they reached to the victims whose mouth were cut, hands were chopped, to understand how they feel about this trial. Did you reach to their parents? You know, did you reach to children who were forced to murder their own parents, and right now they can't even stay in their own villages because of this kind of thing? You know, so this is what I want to understand before I go further, because I have a huge experience, living with the children who just returned from captivity. I lived with them for 8 years at Gulu Support the Children Organization, or GUSCO. So if you could really tell me, if you really understand how me, who became a victim because I was working with the children, and then the victim themselves that we are working with. So that's what I really want to understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Oriam Kisinga. And now we shall give the mic back to Councillor Peter Haynes to answer some of these questions that have risen from the other speakers.
Thank you for your questions and thank you for your interests. And I'm going to try and embrace them and deal with them, as it were, all together if I can. One of the fundamental principles about the ICC is that its jurisdiction is really secondary to the jurisdiction of national authorities. In other words, if in Uganda you have somebody like Thomas Coelho and you have the ability to try him and you carry out an investigation, then the ICC has nothing to do with it. And I have been in Uganda, I've been in Kampala and Gulu and Lira twice now in the last month, and what I see there is a very capable judicial system. There's no doubt in my mind that the Ugandan judicial system is perfectly able to try people for whatever crime is committed in Uganda by Ugandans against other Ugandans. And that's really the starting point. And that's why we have concern about the views that are being expressed to us that the ICC's intervention in northern Uganda is possibly very unhelpful. Because were it dealt with as a national matter, then it would feed into necessarily the socio-economic difficulties of the area. It would take full account of, as you said, the Acholi justice systems, which give full vent to reparations. And our concern is that the ICC is experimenting with this idea that they can go so far along the line with the proceedings against Joseph Kony in his absence, when it probably isn't what people want. And yes, we're very much aware that there are different sorts of victims in northern Uganda. As somebody very eloquently put it to me, a child of a rape can be 27 years of age now. So can an abducted young boy who has escaped the LRA and come back to live in Uganda. And they can be living in the same community, and they need to move forward, and they need to be able to occupy the same space and work together and live together. And the other thing that I think concerns us is the very narrow and limited scope of the charges which are being brought against Joseph Kony. They only, in fact, relate to 8 attacks over a period of about 1 year between June 2003 and June 2004. And that's a fraction of the attacks even that the LRA carried out. And of course, we also know that the LRA wasn't the only party in the Civil War that caused harm to victims. So it's a narrow band of charges that relates to a very limited number of victims. And we didn't go looking for this information, but very much the questions that Stella has asked and Oriem has asked were being thrown up to us. And so in many ways, I can't answer your questions. I didn't bring these charges. I'm not a representative of the prosecution. But I have been impressed with the fact that people are asking the same questions that Stella and Oriem are asking about, have people really considered whether this is a good idea? And I've rapidly come to the conclusion that perhaps they haven't. Perhaps they're just thinking the Joseph Kony case has been knocking around for a long time. He's been missing for a long time. Let's do something to advance it, without thinking that, in fact, that might be damaging to the efforts to reconcile the population of North Uganda with one another and to provide some cohesion to the communities there. I hope that deals with your questions, because if I'm honest, do I think the Acholi people will like this? I can't answer that. I can only repeat the information that I've been given. Have victims been prepared? I would hope so. Will people be disappointed? I don't know, but I suspect so. And if I understand Oriem's question, does the ICC understand what it's doing? I hope so too. But some of the views that have been expressed to me and my team of lawyers would suggest that perhaps they haven't really thought through the potential harm that these proceedings might cause. So I hope that deals with the 4 or 5 questions that you asked between you by putting them within, as it were, a legal framework. The reason why, of course, the Joseph Kony case is before the ICC and not before a court in Uganda is because 20 years ago, the government signed a referral of the LRA to the ICC, and that referral still exists and justifies the ICC acting in this case, whereas the Ugandan authorities took it upon themselves to prosecute Thomas Kwoyelo. Does anybody else want to ask something?
Council, thank you so much. Maybe I see Oriem, I think, wants to speak.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate how Council Peter came through with with his explanation. You see, in this situation, what matters so much is the opinion of the victim. You can be representing somebody, but you will never understand how a person whose mouth has been cut feels. A person who was forced to murder the mother would feel, you know. So it is very, very important to consider the feelings of the victims and also the cultural aspect, because like in Acholi, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So like for example, in Acholi or in northern Uganda, when, for example, when me or Riem kills a person, it is no longer my only issue. It becomes the issue of my tribe and the tribe that I killed the person in. So it is that complex because, like, the way we do things here is not the way probably ICC might be looking at it. So it would be very, very important to prepare the victims, to really, like, go through this trial. For example, if we are to put this trial on TV and then there is a victim watching, how prepared is the victim to watch the person who subjected them to extreme torture and actually stealing their future, and they are watching on TV? How prepared are we to let these people watch or even read about it in the newspaper? You know? So I remember the lead counsel was called Marcos of ICC who came around. And they tried their best, but honestly, I think trying to really get into trial right now without preparing the victims, I think, there is more to be done on that. I am not making judgment here, but I feel something needs to be done before that, which, of course, on this context, Council Peter may not, answer this, but then generally, I think there are missteps in the way things should be done. And I don't know, I would get back to Stella, Council Stella, who is actually the minister, Ike Kwaro. In such a context where a situation is hitting us hard on the face and there is Ke Kwaro, how can we deal with this? Because issues of Matoput, which was done even before this, was being done by Ke Kwaro. Right now, there is this very serious issue where the victims, the relatively, let me call it privileged victims, can have their voice heard. And then there are these victims who are very far away from, and they were seriously affected, but their voice cannot be heard in such a situation. What can Ke Kwaro do? What can Ke Kwaro give as an advice to ICC to let them understand that the last victim, which doesn't have any privilege, can also be represented? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think you have questions on the issue of preparedness of the local communities. Honorable and Council Stella Kijange will speak to that, but also we have Council Henry Kilama, who has been representing victims in the Thomas Coelho trial, which just ended recently. He will have to speak at some point. But for the questions that have been asked directly to Council Peter Haynes, he can handle them for now. Then also, he will also tell us from his meeting, he has told us he met the president of the Republic of Uganda and also the Chief Justice of this country. What transpired and what should the people of northern and eastern Uganda who were directly affected by the Joseph Kony led war know? Is there a possibility? Actually, I think that part you've answered that it can be, the trial can be had anywhere. But just from what Kissinger has been asking, and then also you can just continue and tell us from your meeting the president and the chief justice.
I don't think I've got much to add, really. The position of the Ugandan government is that if Joseph Kony were arrested in Uganda or arrested somewhere else and transferred to Uganda, he would be tried in Uganda, plain and simple. But at the moment, he's not in Uganda. And if he were to be arrested somewhere else and that country decided to transfer him to the ICC, then they would be happy with the ICC dealing with him. The second thing I think they said was that they regard the confirmation of charges hearing as being something that is not a trial, and so therefore it doesn't trouble them. But if there were an idea that Joseph Kony should be actually tried, that findings of guilt should be made against him when he was not present, they would not be happy with that. But the third thing was that they're very much aware of the need for this not to disturb the people of northern Uganda in a way that would be harmful to the cohesion of the community. And I think I can tell you that that's a matter that's under discussion at Cabinet. And we were told that the results of the Cabinet discussion would be made available to us in due course. It might be interesting to hear what Henry has got to say, although I see he might have disappeared now, because of course he's just been dealing with a reparations hearing in the Coelho case, and he might want to let us know how that has gone. One of the problems with, I think, the ICC intervention is, of course, only those victims who are registered for the offences that an accused is charged with can acquire reparations from the ICC. And as you may know, the amount of reparations ordered in the Dominic Ongwen case was quite enormous, but there is nothing like that sum of money available for distribution. And of course, it's not available for distribution to people who don't qualify. And one of the points that was made very eloquently to me by somebody who ran an NGO is that really the question of reconciliation, cohesion, mending the communities is primarily a responsibility of government. It's not a matter of some outside agency coming with a few $1 million to put in a few people's pockets. Really, the mending of the community is a matter for national government, and I think that's a valid point as to whether the intervention of an outside agency in relation to a small portion or relatively small portion of the harm caused by the civil war is helpful or damaging. Anyway, I hope that, as best I can, answers the question I was asked.
Okay, at this point, we can have Council Stella Kijangi come in as Kitzing had asked about the involvement of the Kekwaro, actually.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Council Peter Haynes, Omago, and Oriam. You stated clearly that you want to know the role of Kekwar actually in respect to the confirmation hearing of the charges. We are not yet ready for the trial. We are only confirming that the charges will be read, and then we hear the charges against Joseph Kony. So now, if the charges were to be conducted, or if these hearings were to be conducted, which have not yet been approved, what would be the role of KEQUAR actually? KEQUAR actually, as a cultural institution, our mandate, our primary role is to provide cultural and traditional context to the trial. KEQUAR actually would explain the impact of LRA's action on the people of Acholi. I may not delve so much into it because each and every one of us was, in one way or the other, affected by this war. So we know the impact. So it's upon KEQUAR Acholi to continuously explain to the victims and to the entire Acholi the impact of the war. And then there are other traditional justice system values that we have, for example, Matoput, that emphasizes reconciliation, forgiveness, reparation. This is one of the principles that Kekwaro emphasizes among members within Acholi and Uganda at large. We remember the case of Kanyamunyu. What happened? He found himself at Kekwaro Acholi, and practically Matoput happened. That is the traditional justice system we've had. Kekwaro Acholi will also mobilize the community to participate in this trial if it is to be conducted. We all know the trial cannot be conducted when Joseph Kony is not found. And if the confirmation of hearing is to be conducted, it is still going to be the role of Kekwaro Acholi to mobilize the community to participate, because we want to ensure that voices of the victims are heard. Clan involvement, leaders, elders, among others, do provide guidance and oversight. I believe ICC would need amicus curiae, the friends of court. And it is the cultural institution that has the mandate of identifying who has the experience, the expertise in providing the guidance and counseling or evidence that the court, the ICC may need. These people may not be directly involved, but they can provide guidance and pieces of advice while trials are being conducted. All this confirmation of hearing is being conducted. So culture, we also believe in blessings from ancestors. Rituals and ceremonies ought to be embedded in the ICC, because as actually we believe that in the spirit, we believe in our God that guide us. Majority believe that Kony is a spirit, he's not a human being. And there are others who believe that Kony is a human being like us. But actually, as a people, we have our God that we believe in, that protects us, that always protects us. So as a cultural institution, we also would want to ensure that the trial is conducted in a way that is sensitive to the needs and concerns of the community in Acholi. Number one is justice and accountability. We want to hold Joseph Kony responsible for the atrocities he committed. We will not say, Oriem Kissinger, we are holding you accountable, you are not the ringleader. But justice is seen to be done when the person behind it is held accountable. So Kekwaro actually would not look at someone else other than the former LRA leader, Joseph Kony. And then we also look at victim participation and reparation of victims. At the end of the day, what are the victims going to take away? Are they satisfied? Will it be financial? Will the financial compensation will be commensurate with the kind of pain they went through? Are they willing to participate? So it's the role of Kekwaro actually to psychologically support the victims and bring them together to share their experiences and constantly remind them that the ICC outcome will repair them from the damages they suffered during the war. And then cultural sensitivity and traditional justice, like we said before. Let the trial be conducted in a way that respects our cultural traditions and values. We actually, as a people, believe in forgiveness. We believe in truth-telling. The only tribe in Acholi that tells the truth, in Uganda that tells the truth, maybe the entire world at large, is Acholi. Yes, we might tear each other apart, but at the end of the day, we speak the truth. We are remorseful, we apologize, and we get back to normal. So our core values as Acholi is truth-telling, forgiveness, and getting justice seen to be done. Kekwaro Acholi will also emphasize that security and protection is guaranteed. We do not want to see that our people We want to see that people are being threatened or are in fear of potential retaliation, either from Joseph Kony himself, because some people believe he's a spiritual being, or from the sympathizers of Joseph Kony. There are others who sympathize with him and they believe the entire trial. Yes, we posted this yesterday, and majority were like, why are you posting this? Instead of focusing on socio-economic empowerment of Acholi sub-region, you're here talking about Joseph Kony. So there are some sympathizers who are against this entire ICC process. So what about our security? We are here chatting on X, but how is my security guaranteed? How am I protected from freely expressing my opinion as regards this trial?
Mm.
So I bring it to you, ICC, and the government to take steps to ensure that the victims, the witnesses, and the entire people actually are protected. And then finally, closure and healing. At the end of the day, the noise of, oh, Joseph Kony, ICC, blah, blah, blah. We want it to come to an end. So when is it coming to an end? We have had psychological trauma for a very long time. 20 years of the physical war, and then we're still going through trauma of this war. At the end of the day, we want it to close and we want to heal. So ICC should give us this guarantee. So as Kekwar actually will continue preaching for these remedies to be availed to us. This is briefly what I have for now, and thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Council Stella Kidange. And Council Peter Haynes, I think you've noted some of her concerns, and she's speaking on behalf of the Acholi Cultural Institution. Maybe you can speak to that. But first, let me request, I had requested you to give us 1 hour of your time, but kindly give us an extra few minutes if that is okay with you.
That's fine by me, Omega.
Thank you, thank you. Now you can proceed.
I'm not sure how I can respond to what Stella has just said. Yet again, I came to northern Uganda for the first time in my life about a month ago. I met with the paramount chief and other community and leaders and representatives of victims. And I think I heard pretty much what Stella has just said, that there was disquiet about dealing with this in this way. And I want to be absolutely clear. Even as somebody who represents the interests of Joseph Kony, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that were he arrested, he should not face justice. He must be held accountable for what he did if he's alive, if he's caught, and if he's brought to a court of appropriate jurisdiction. One view I've heard expressed is that were he to be apprehended and brought before a court, perhaps in northern Uganda, it would be a great moment of reconciliation. Perhaps he could face his wrongdoing and apologize for it and begin the healing process. And that would be consistent with the local culture, and it would be consistent with the principles of justice that Stella has outlined so eloquently. But whether that is achieved by simply having a few days of hearings in a courtroom in northern Uganda, because it is proposed that these hearings should take place there, is the same thing as that, is highly questionable. and the view which seems to be repeated to us is that which Stella has just expressed, which is that it's not. You know, and that if you can't have the paradigm, the perfect situation where Joseph Kony has to face the charges that are laid against him, then this is no substitute, and it's in fact damaging rather than meaningful. Anyway, I'm just repeating what Stella said because she has spoken to members of my team, and I have spoken to others who have expressed exactly those views, and they have impressed me when I've been in northern Uganda. Anyway, that probably doesn't answer any question. I'm not sure there was a question, but yes, I do agree that Kekwaro Acholi are the sort of organisation that should be seeking to file amicus briefs before the ICC on this issue. And I would welcome them doing that, but that's something that's a matter for them.
Okay. Council, your submission is done.
Sorry, yeah, I get so used to working in the ICC where when you're finished, you turn off your microphone. So when when I turn off my microphone, it means I've stopped speaking.
Thank you so much. That's a great lesson to me personally, and of course to those who are also following. At this time, I want to open up for the audience. In case you have a question, you have a minute to ask a question. Honorable Jem Kisinga, I see your microphone is open. I don't know whether you would want to speak.
Thank you so much. I have just been following, and I appreciate so much how Peter handled this issue, because he gave us a little bit of understanding of how ICC is actually looking at this, this case, and how they would desire, not like really they desire, how they probably anticipate it, but also he might have picked a better understanding of what we, the people who are victims, feel about this. So basically, there is no question. I appreciate how he has been handling everything, and also I appreciate Stella so much for bringing in the cultural aspect, because without it, I don't see this ICC, case ending the damages that has already been caused, because the moment we do not handle this at the lower level, however much the so-called justice has been achieved from ICC or wherever locally, there would still be challenges. So the battle would be over, but the war would continue. That is the point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The audience, in case you have something to say, you can just press on that love icon, which is on the surface of the X space, and then click on the thumbs up so that I can know that you want to speak. We have a minute for that, but I want to extend my appreciation to Councillor Peter Haynes. He will have final submission in a short while. Then we will call it a day. It's been very fruitful. But the audience, in case you want to say something, you have a chance right now. Council Henry Kilama was online, but somehow he's off now. So we will skip him. I know Council Peter Haynes had actually requested him to say something based on his experience with the Thomas Coelho trial, but he is offline, but it's okay. All right, Council Peter Haynes, in case there's something else that you want the people of Northern Uganda, people in Uganda, and those who are interested in this case of Joseph Kony, to understand. Please, you can have 5 minutes as you sign out.
I think all I want to say is I think Uganda's a fantastic country. I had never visited it before. I've now been there twice in less than a month. I think the people there are magnificent, especially in the north. It is one of the most welcoming places I have ever been. People just open doors to you and help you. And I see a vibrancy about the place. It looks like it is developing very well. And you should understand that my other experiences of sub-Saharan Africa are in the Congo and in the Central African Republic and in Cameroon and Tanzania, and in Uganda I see so much promise in its development and in its people, and I've been so impressed. And I think that has really affected my my view of these proceedings. I didn't bring them. I became embroiled in them, and I became embroiled in them because it was the Joseph Kony case, and it was fascinating, and it was an attempt to expand the legal boundaries at the ICC to prosecute people who were absent. But the benefit of that for me has been coming to Uganda. And I would wholeheartedly not wish anything to be done by the ICC that damaged the future of that country, the development of that country, and the cohesion of its people. And I think I've said this before, I didn't go looking for people to tell me this. People just told me this. And I suspect that there's a big difference between, I don't just suspect, I know there's a big difference between the situation 20 years ago when the Ugandan government then handed to the ICC the permission to prosecute Joseph Kony, with the situation now when everything that I'm told says the only way that is going to be meaningful is if he's brought before a court in Uganda and his victims can see him there and he answers to his charges, which of course he must do if he's alive and if he can be caught. But I've begun to have, indeed not begun to have, I have confirmed feelings that simply presenting a case in a courtroom in Gulu or Lira where he is not there, that relates only to a small portion of what the LRA did in the area, is not something that will benefit anybody and may well cause damage, which I think would be unfortunate and not in keeping with the direction in which the country as a whole is going. Anyway, that's all I've really got to say. I want to say it's been a great honour to talk to you all, and I've loved hearing your voices. Obviously, I've met Henry before. I didn't meet Stella, although people in my team did. I look forward to meeting you, Stella, in the future, and maybe talking to some more of you when I'm next in Uganda. But other than that, God bless you all, and I wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Stella, I think you can open your mic and receive the Merry Christmas greetings.
Oh, thank you very much, Councillor Haynes, Peter Haynes. I look forward to meeting you too. I've met Councillor Christopher, I've met Julian, I've met Maria, I've met Anna. I hope to meet you soon. Thank you, Omago, for this wonderful topic that you've put across this evening. It has been an eye-opener. I would like to appreciate the ICC team for engaging the community. On the 18th of November 2024, you held a stakeholders meeting where you updated us on the case of Joseph Kony, the background, the context, the judicial development and current status of the case. This is exactly what the people of Acholi would love to hear from you. And thank you very much for engaging the community, for engaging the culture institution, for engaging the government, for engaging the judiciary, and the key stakeholders. Joseph Kony is our son. Joseph Kony is our brother. He's a father. He's our own. And what we look forward to achieving is in one of the principles of justice, of judicial, of administration of justice in this country, that is reconciliation between the parties shall be promoted. Believe that at the end of it all, the victims and the families of Joseph Kony have forgiveness among themselves, reconcile, and live together in harmony before the insurgency or the LRA war came into place. And another thing is that we advocate for adequate compensation. Last week, there was a ruling of where there was compensation to the victims, but others are not satisfied. A majority believe that Acholi entirely, or Acholi as a whole, was a victim, or we are victims of this war, and we should not be sidelined. So that is our appeal to ICC, that once you're doing reparation, just know that the entire region, the entire sub-region was damaged. So once you're repairing, repair us according to the kind of damage we've had. Others might have been direct and others indirectly. What about me as Stella? I ran away from northern Uganda and found myself in Buganda. I would also have loved to study in one of the schools in northern Uganda, but I didn't have the opportunity because of this insurgency. You, as ICC, how are you going to repair this damage that you've caused to me, who had loved my sub-region and would be one of the maybe Sacred Heart, OG, or Gulu High School? I didn't have the opportunity. And then justice shall not be delayed. It has really taken time, and the mere mention of the name Joseph Kony, everybody believes that justice will not be brought so soon. So I appeal to ICC to expedite this process. Let us not look at the technicalities, but let us look at ways that we may expedite the healing and reconciliation between the parties. I look forward to meeting you all, and we, the people of Acholi, are willing to work with ICC, provided our traditional justice system principles are adhered to. I wish each and every one of us here a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Council Stella Kijange, and of course for your passionate defense of the Acholi people. I will give a chance to Honorable Oriem Kisinga in your closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm here. Thank you so much, everybody. I would like to appreciate you, the hosts. I appreciate Peter, Council Peter, and then Council Stella. Yeah, most of the issues that we have discussed is just like brainstorming, trying to see the pros and the cons of the possible case that would, be coming up, and also trying to see possibilities of, things that could have been overlooked to probably be considered to make sure that in the end everybody is satisfied with what comes up. It is very interesting how law works, because traditionally there are ways we do our things, and then like as Uganda, there are also laws that we follow, and then there is this ICC. But it is going to be very important for us to make sure that we respect, especially the victims, in whatever we do. So we don't consult just groups of victims, but we have to make sure that there is a larger coverage of most of the victims and how they feel about this and what do they think justice is. Because in some cases, um, when someone is, for example, murdered, uh, there is no way you can say there is going to be justice because the other person is already gone. But of course, there is a fair way, and there is a way I can forgive, the person who has murdered my family member, you know. So that aspect of forgiveness is very, very important in our culture, and that should always be considered in whatever we do. Basically, that is what I can say for now. I totally appreciate the space, and I appreciate the contribution of most of the people who were part of this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And of course, the background to today's X space here on the Northern Baraza is that Joseph Kony is a suspect of war crimes and crimes against humanity allegedly committed between the 1st of July 2002 to the 31st of December 2005. That's here in Northern Uganda. The ICC court does not have jurisdiction to try acts committed before that date of 1st July 2002. And of course, the pre-trial chamber 3 concluded that Mr. Joseph Kony could not be found and decided to hold a confirmation of charges hearing in his absence. Today, we've been having Counsel Peter Haynes, who is the lead lawyer in the defense of Joseph Kony. And of course, we've also had Stella Kijange, who is a lawyer herself and as well as the Minister of Gender at the Acholi Cultural Institution known as Kekwaro Acholi, and development advocate Oriam Kisinga. We were joined briefly by lawyer, that is Henry Kilama Komakej, who has experience in these issues, especially now that he was part of the Victims Council, that is in the Thomas Coelho trial at the International Crimes Division of the High Court. But he was unable to speak to us, but we want to appreciate the fact that he joined. To everybody, everyone else who has taken time to listen, we want to say thank you so much. I have a request here from someone to say something. That's Charles Donaldson. I'll give you a minute. Okay. I think he's unable to speak up, but thank you so much. It's been a honor, and I really appreciate Council Peter Haynes that you took your time and even extended an extra 18 minutes into today's X space. I will arrange for us to have the Zoom video call later on. But for now, I want to say thank you so much. God bless you. Merry Christmas to you and to your team. And of course, to the X Space panelists as well. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Next week will be a different topic. But for now, God be with you. Good night.